he came into the coffee house, and I spent time with him, and he was Jewish, and he said, you know, he says, I want to believe what you're saying. He said, I would love to accept Jesus as my Messiah, except for one thing. He says, it says that unless you're born again, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. This would mean that my dear Jewish grandmother would not make it to heaven. I said, David, you and I don't know that. I says, one thing we do know is God is love and God is just. I said, I don't think you have to worry about your grandmother. I said, you just worry about yourself. And I said, tell you what, I said, you're heading out to California. I says, send me a card and let me know if you do accept Jesus as your Messiah. About 2 months later, I got the card. He said, I've accepted Jesus as my Messiah. Well, he had gone to Palm Beach, California, and visited an aunt a Jewish who had also accepted Jesus Messiah. And then she pointed him to go to the Jews for Jesus in San Francisco. So about 10 years after that, I got a call one day. I don't know if you remember me. I said, I sure do. He said, I'm here in town for a little while. Would you have time? Maybe we could meet, have lunch? I said, love to. And he began to share with me what had happened to him after he accepted Jesus as Messiah. His dad was a very wealthy furniture business in Detroit, I believe it was. And he went back and was so happy, told his dad, you know, I've accepted Jesus as my Messiah. And of course, his Jewish dad, they were like Orthodox. They just said, oh, for crying out loud. So they hired a psychiatrist to work with him to get him straightened out. He led the Jewish psychiatrist to the Lord. And so he said after that, he says, I wanted to go just tell everybody in Israel about Jesus Messiah. He says, I went to Israel. I traveled all over Israel announcing Jesus as a Messiah. But then after that, he says, you know, I felt to come back to the States. So he joined up with Jews for Jesus. Now, he was a CPA accountant, but he's also a musician. He was a keyboard. And so he says, I've traveled all over Russia, all over Europe with Jews for Jesus, being their keyboard. I've also worked with him as their CPA. So he said, I thought you would just be interested in knowing, you know what had happened to me.